We all know, or pretend to know, that the past is the cause of what happens in the future. That is to say that if today we get out of bed, it is because we went to bed last night. Simple, cause and effect. But this belief is valid only if we also consider that time flows only in one direction. The past is, precisely, something that happened, something inexorable, that we cannot change. However, there is a possibility to change the past, a possibility that has nothing to do with the time machine, since it is not necessary to travel to the past to change it. In any case, to change the present, both Doc Brown and Marty McFly should not have traveled to the past in the DeLorean, but to the future. That is what the theory of retrocausality, or reverse causality, is about, which holds that it is the future that changes the past. At the subatomic level, at least, the future affects and even completely changes the past, which allows us to surrender meekly to determinism. Things happen for something, and that something is not in the past, but in the future. In other words, it is not the cause that determines the effect, but the other way round. According to the uncertainty principle of quantum mechanics, it is impossible to know all the properties of a particle at a given moment. If, for example, you accurately measure the speed at which that particle is moving, or what its location is, accuracy is lost in other measurements. But there is something else that happens on the quantum scale. Particles can exist in more than one place at the same time, until a measurement device observes them. Then things get even stranger. The symmetric time theory explains why the difference between two identical particles can only be found in the future, that is, the information of the future is what affects the characteristics of the present. To try to understand it, let's think about a football match. The result of this game is, according to our conception of time, something that happens at the end and that does not alter what happened previously, that is, the development of the game. However, the results of experiments at subatomic scale indicate the opposite. The measurements that will be made at the end affect those that are made in the present. It is as if the result of a football match altered the actions of the game that has just ended. This is known as feedback of the future, something that would completely change our conception of time by explaining how the future affects what happens in the present, that is, in the past, from a future perspective. In physical terms, we like to think about the present, that we walk forward, and that it is impossible to go back to the past. The same happens when we try to objectify time on a plane. For example, on a sheet of paper, the future is always represented on the right, the present in the center, and the past on the left. But in the universe things are not so simple. The future is not ahead, nor the past behind, and certainly we are not in the middle of anything. Retrocausality indicates that the ultimate state of the universe is defined, and that it extends from the future backwards to affect its beginning. The Big Bang, for example, is the beginning of the universe in the unidirectional time, in which we inhabit, but this is not the only temporal flow. In the symmetric time, the end of the universe, or its definitive form, also exists, and it is that form that conditions its beginning. Before the religious detractors formulate their objections, it is important to point out that retrocausality implies that the universe already has a programmed end, which in turn influences the entire chain of events of unidirectional time towards its final state. In other words, destiny exists. The paradoxical, and at the same time amazing, is that this destiny is not a consequence, but a cause, a fact of the future that attracts the universe and its past towards it. Now, if the future already exists, to what extent can we do something to change it? According to this theory, we will not see changes in the future of humanity as a consequence of our actions in the present, but our future is actually the one that is influencing our present.